Namaste Galactic family, welcome back to my channel Indigo Angel. Come on in guys, come on into this dimension, come on into a grid update and a remote view session that I'm going to be doing more extensively on the Georgia Guidestones, diving in just a little bit more deeply, a little bit covering more points that I did not get to go over as much in detail in my last video. Also because going over some new things, because, you know, as you go to these sacred sites and these sacred locations and these vortex sites and these eugenics and depopulation man-made energy vortexes, essentially it takes time for that information to really integrate for the remote view to kind of fully come into visibility, because it's kind of like you integrate the energy and then slowly more stuff starts to decode itself and present itself and download itself over the next few days after you get activated by the site itself. So yeah, I'm going to be going in a lot more. Today I have a lot more information for you guys even today than I did there at the Georgia Guidestones. So I also wanted to apologize because it's been taking me so much longer than usual to get updates out to you guys. And it's just because I've had so much going on for the month of March. I've been so busy. Been trying to fit a little bit of travels in, and also have been working really diligently on updating my website. And I'm so excited. You guys, please go check out the website, indigoangel222.com. It is amazing. I am so in love with it. I was really stressed out in the process of getting my website up and going in the beginning, but because there was a lot of stress around taking the old one down and how we're going to switch everything around and having to actually redo everything because there was already so much on my other website. But I'm just so happy that I did. It's come out really good. Please go check it out. Give me back feedback. Let me know what you think of the new site. I have a lot of new sections on this site that I didn't have on my old site. One particularly is my blog section, which is amazing because I have probably at least 12 to 15 blogs that I've thrown up on the site that is all my original authentic work. Different channeled concepts like lunar planetary stargates. That was an article that I threw up on the community tab that will take you back to my new website, where I've channeled all 28 planetary lunar stargate locations on the Earth's grid, the Earth's field, and go into the depth of the explanation of lunar force celestial energy. So I have all of these amazing blogs, authentic work that I don't think very many people have seen because I've just redid all of this information and all of this intel and put it up on the new site. So check out my blog section. Check out the section that I have for the celebrity starseed origin readings. And it's not just celebrities, it's influential people, it's political leaders. I've done about 50 of them now. I've done more than 50, but I've highlighted about 50 of them up on my website on the celebrity starseed origin page. And I have, a little in-depth description and reading below each and every person's chart. So it's really awesome. I think you guys will like it. What I'm trying to build on my website is an ascension resource database for people that's going to have a lot of different resources, a lot of different types of researches and blogs and information and intel that people looking for ascension knowledge basically can find on my site. So it's going to be a work in progress going forward, and I hope to get a lot more pages up. I'd like to get some sort of terms or glossary also on my page at some point where I'm, defining ascension terms and descriptions of ascension terms for people. And also I have my video section as well, so that way you can go in and you can browse under categories. And I have a lot of categories, a lot of different reference videos for different starseed origins that are all labeled under categories. So if you're looking specifically for Sirian starseed, Orion starseed, Arcturian starseed, Pleiadian starseed, regular starseed, you can find all of that information there on my website. So I'm really excited to share this with you guys. Be sure to put your email in to subscribe to my website newsletters as well, because I do actually send out a pretty amazing website newsletter once a month that has collaborative information of all of the planetary and galactic intel that I've brought forth and channeled over the month. And I leave a lot of resources to other videos that I have referenced that maybe you can't find on my channel, and just put together a nice little updated package for you every single month. So be sure to subscribe to that. I'd love to share all of this with you. And so for this video today, I will be explaining how basically the energy flows at the Georgia Guidestone, what I have remote viewed in terms of the technology that they're using there, how they're using this for astral exploitation, how I'm seeing lunar tunnelers underneath the Georgia Guidestones. So I'm going to get into the remote view part of this video where I show you what I've been seeing honestly over the last 5 days, and I've just had time to kind of put it together and present it for you. And then also in the second half of this video, I will also be focusing on the surrounding underground area around the Georgia Guidestones, and the secret militarization complexity that is running in the state alone, looking at the entire state as a whole, as a functioning future pillar for interdirectional stone set. Okay, this is kind of like its energetic home base to what they're preparing for militarization wise, according to the Aquilan system at the Georgia Guidestones, basically. So what I have seen is that the Georgia Guidestones are designed interdirectionally. That's done intentionally. So they're not essentially going north, south, east, and west positions. They're going interdirectionally. And I do feel that that was a pre-design to essentially assist the intentional energies for what they are connected to, future, simultaneous, and current timelines, to stay undetected in the 4 pillars of man codes, right? Because those 4 pillar of man codes are running north, south, east, and west. They are running the Lemurian organic crystal grid systems, and they are considered the 4 pillars of man that runs those organic codes down from Easter Islands and links into the angular, ancient equatorial plane of the old Lemurian templates. Okay, so I do feel that they experienced resistance. If they had tried to place those stones north, south, east, and west, they would have experienced resistance in this, and they wouldn't actually have been able to erect them in those positions. They're basically like hyperdimensional, interdirectionally powered, essentially. And this works similar to how the angular ley lines in the Earth's field also work too. They cross into the more undetectable Earth's dimensional fields. This is also running under radial Earth grids. So there's actually a radial and a nuclear grid network that runs a matrix system across the entire Earth's grids fields. And I do feel that the stones are linking into this particular grid set. I do believe this is it's called like a Curry overlay or grid matrix that runs radial and nuclear grid templating. It is actually the most common templating in the Earth's field, and it does run currents that go from northeast to southwest. I do feel that that is the actual ley line generation and most active current through the Georgia Guidestones, that it's running a northeast through southwest current. And so you know a lot of this if you've studied grid networks, right? If you've studied the workings and the functioning of how grid templates work in the Earth field. So this is definitely grid worker and gatekeeper talk here. And you're probably not aware that there are angular ley lines running, or that there are different types of grid sets. One being, like I said, particularly radial or nuclear, that there's also magnetic grid templates as well. Those magnetic templates running off of the lunar planetary stargate systems. There's a lot of different ways that these grid systems functions, and which vortexes and stargate sites and types of stargate sites that they function off of, in and through. But essentially, this is really for those of us that are either hopped up on some liquid gold or we are coming off a radical near-death experience. We're the ones that can usually detect these types of structures in the Earth's field. It's because we've embodied planetary consciousness as our consciousness, and we exist in and through the visibility of that as our own structures. And so that's why it's easier for us to see these things. But you can develop this as you attain more of your ascension codes, develop more to the 12 to the 24 to the 48 strands of the DNA, and actually go multiple tribal rounds of this. It doesn't ever stop. Once you're on the path, you're activating above and beyond, regressing, digressing, descending, and then expanding, and then coming into higher codes, higher particle, dormant consciousness particle fields, and then embodying those to collapse, rewrite the DNA, and collapse the geometric structures and actually become an entirely new soul all the time. We're doing that all the time. So with that interdirectionality of the Georgia Guidestones, essentially the ancients, this is ancient technology for magic. Interdirectional magic was actually inscribed as a Lemurian technology because they honored 10 directional sets, north, south, east, and west, and then northeast, northwest, southwest, southeast, and then up and down as well, 10 directions. They inscribed this on the Lemurian wheels that they used to teach their young occult spiritual knowledge. Something that I feel personally, and I know many of you resonate with me when I say this because you guys have told me before, some of you have told me, that we desperately need to be teaching our babies this occult knowledge now from a very young age, teaching them spiritual and occult teachings as soon as they are really asking the questions, why am I alive? Why am I here? Where did I come from? If you have a little one and they're asking these questions, even at 3, 4, or 5 years old, they're basically saying, I'm ready to understand. I'm ready for knowledge. So don't hold back from your little ones being activated, because this is really the problem with our world, is that we're not given this knowledge at a really young age when we need it, when we're asking for it. What we're given is the biblical, Templar, and dogmatic belief systems to basically take us on a downward path of self-destruction. So we as parents have to see these signs and we have to nurture them in our babies. Otherwise, like I said, they'll just become victims to the Trinity Gate sites, the harvesting sites, the loosh, and they're going to waste a lot of years of their life lost in self-destruction codes, 666 codes, Tower of Babel codes, before they get a rude awakening, right? And for some of us, we might have these beautiful, jolly awakening stories, but for the majority of us who come to awaken, it's through trauma, it's through self-destruction, it's through near-death experiences, and a lot of those are self-inflicted because you're going and going and going, and you're seeking for something that takes you to the edge, right? Because you're trying to attain wisdom, and you want answers to things. You're not getting those answers, and so it can be a very tumultuous awakening if you're not given these keys of information and knowledge from a young age. So that's kind of how I think we can continue to assist the evolution of ascension for the planet, is through the youth, is through our babies. We can actually even remove seals on our babies as well, because we as parents are the guardians of our children until they're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. So if we sense seals and caps in our children, I wouldn't advise doing it on any child. It should be your child. But we can also remove those seals. So Yeah, I know I just got off on a tangent there with you guys, but it's all relative. It's all sentient information, ascension technology, right? Now, this interdirectional dial that they're using at the Georgia Guidestones through the silicone granite stones, right? There's a silicone component to this that's really, really important as well that I'm going to go over. And this is all the ancient occult techniques. They're using this here at the Georgia Guidestones, and they're using this essentially to funnel this ultimately for militarization development in the New World Death Orders, in a process of astral exploitation in the lower D tumultuous fields. I did talk about that as best I could at the Georgia Guidestones on location, but for some reason on location, I was talking really fast. I felt myself hyped up on energy. I usually get adrenaline rushes when I'm in places like that, seem a little bit scattered or seem a little bit just like all over the place, and I repeat myself and I'm just rambling, and I get really hyped up on adrenaline when I'm at those places because I can feel the energy behind me. I can feel the people around me. I can feel the interdimensional souls and Bardo souls around me. I can feel the power of the vortex and what intuitively what they're running underneath the ground, and the interdirectional portals, the solar portals, the solar celestial portals. And so I get almost frantic. That was the word I was looking for. I get frantic, and it's hard for me to slow down. I think that's one thing that I have to work on, is slowing down, but that's what the energy does to me there. It speeds up all of the particles, molecules, atoms in my being, and I'm going at like a hyperdimensional light speed, I feel like. And so it jumbles my words. It makes me talk really, really fast. But essentially what I'm seeing is the Georgia Guidestones, it's a funneling system that they're using nuclear powered energy, but it's also a staple of that representation of the Aquila grid to propagate that militarization. This is what it's really all about. This is probably one of the most important aspects at this site, because this is the core energy of the Aquilan control matrix. It is government, military organization. And I didn't fully realize the extent of it when I went to the site, but it's all just become very clear to me. So I'm going to share a lot of that with you guys today in this grid update. I'm going to show you these particular locations and how extensive this militarization complex really is all over the state of Georgia to a global network perspective as well. It's really, really intense, you guys, what they have going on in Georgia. I was not aware. It's more extensive than what they have going on in Colorado, and I thought that Denver was probably the most extensive place I've ever looked at. So I think that this is really all about them establishing the patriarchy dominance with that brute, destructive, and lethal force at any cost necessary type mentality. They really have so much fear. This is what it's really about. There's so much fear of the future, fear of losing control. This is what this is all about. This is coming through this immortal Aquilan celestial radial signature through factions of the immortal Birdman, factions of an immortal Nephilim, okay, an immortal Elohim, an immortal Anunnaki, Father Principle, Christendom quest, okay, because they want to be the biggest, the baddest, and the most alpha organized collective bodies in unification. Immediately following after a post-apocalyptic world, the world post the deluge, post a devastating nuclear warfare, or come Earth cataclysm trigger events, whatever that may be, revelational trigger events, post 10,000 years amnesia. This is how they're looking into the future, okay? Of the future descendancy of mankind through suffering, death, harvesting, and rebirth cycles. They want to reestablish under an Aquilan control network. They're leaving all of the little gifts that will be needed to reestablish under an Aquilan control network. And what's so toxic about this particular control network is that I just looked outside. My little ones are actually taking my dog outside for a walk right now, and they're checking the mail, and they're all cute. They're like walking like by the window. But essentially, it throws me off because I'm like, okay, back to 3D. Okay, back to the Aquila network. Essentially, what's so toxic about this control network is that it's feeding and it's assisting the soul harvesting, soul collective egregores in the astral fields. Okay, it's assisting, like I said, the Templar and dogmatic crucifixion persecution codes. This comes through a lot of systems, but predominantly it's implemented by it's implemented, it's forced by the Aquilan control matrix. It's assisting the Lush sites in the astral fields, the feeding systems that basically consume light, knowledge, every aspect of the spirit. The Aquila network is in full participation here. Are there good things that the Aquila network provides to mankind? Yes, there are, but they're also equally got their hand in the cookie jar type of deal. They are the implementers. They are the enforcers, okay? And they are also the builders. And so this is why they can get away with it, and why they take so much credit for this is because they feel that they built the structures themselves, okay? That they are the eagle eye. They are the sky force quality that builds the Earth's templates and grids, and therefore they can also build the destruction codes that exist within it because they control it. It's theirs. They're also assisting the Trinity Gate sites, the sites that work solely to harvest souls and essentially degrade the grid sites. So the harvesting sites of the homeless people, the drug addicts, the nursery crimes, the human trafficking, money laundering, the big alien five, essentially harvesting the indigo light bodies and the descending and bleeding grids in California, Malibu Beach, also in Manhattan in New York. This is where the Trinity Gate sites are located. This is where they're harvesting souls. Okay, and the Aquila network supports and assists because I could see those portals drawing back energy to the Georgia Guidestones. Okay, the depopulation codes, the eugenic codes, it's drawing energy from these gate systems back to the Georgia Guidestones, all through nuclear participation, atomic nuclear energy. Many cannot see these gate systems because of blocked reality tunnels. Okay, so those that are not attuned to this type of information, that can't see these gate sites or feel these gate sites or know these gate sites are there or even understand this information because it's just not at their level of awareness yet, but waking up to this information. But many cannot see this because these gate systems come through blocked reality tunnels. And also overlapping bubble sphere grids. So I talked about this in that descending grid video that I did. I'll put the link in the description for you guys. But I talked about how we have altering realities from block to block to block, sometimes even on the same streets, where there could be like an entire reality going on here, but there will be an overlapping sphere where they cannot see anything that's going on in that reality, even if it's just like across the street from them. They cannot see what is going on. Those are the bubbles and those are the tunnels that people are trapped in all over the matrix system. The Aquilan control network also assists the rips and tears in the space-time continuums at the nuclear trigger and trauma event locations on the Earth, such as Fukushima and Chernobyl. So this is where those souls are essentially stuck in the Bardo planes. They're fragmented. They are quantum space dust souls ripped apart in trauma death memories. Okay, so this is what makes it so polluted and so hijacked, where they have all of this harvesting going on. It's the fear into the incarnation cycles and consuming that energy to feed off of the miasma traumas inside of the body as well. Because remember, I talked about we're storing those codes in between the organs in the miasma. The miasma is like a thin encasing of like flesh that runs gentle electrical stimulation between organs. And so this is where a lot of that is being held up and blocked up in the body, and they are feeding and consuming off of that energy, off of everybody's body. So be sure to catch my last update where I talked about this a little bit more and some of the things that we can do to actually clear out the miasma inside of the body. I talked about running the magnetic and vibrational therapies, toning therapies. I'm sure Rife therapies would work very, very well. Also, through visualization, working with the epsilon sequence. So I did want to tell you guys the symbol code for that. So this would be the one. This is the epsilon symbol. So this is the one that you would essentially just run down your vertical ascension column. It's essentially the Greek letter for theta. And this will clear your bioenergetic sphere, working with everything from EMF to nanotechnology, nanoparticles. It's probably one of the strongest symbol codes that you can bring in to clear out the bioenergetic sphere down your vertical ascension column. So like I said, HARP attacks, EMF, scalar pulse technologies, 5G radiation, any sort of sorcery, black magic, you would work with a golden version of this. And you would run that down the vertical ascension column to basically clear deeper through the miasma, the organs, the cells, molecules, atoms, the silicone body, the silica. Silica is really important to be clearing or even consuming and adding to your body on some level in terms of minerals and stuff like this, because the silica right now is very under attack with AI technology. As you know, they're running the singularity vortexes in Applegate using the silica. This is one way that they're tapping into advanced technologies and spiritual technologies to distort the astral field, do astral exploitation and things like this. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that because it's the same stuff that's happening at the Georgia Guidestones. They have GMO seeds buried underground at the Georgia Guidestones. So there's like a quartz capstone, and underneath that they have a time capsule that they have buried GMO seeds. So 50 different seeds, 50 different types of crops to grow. And I didn't even really know this until I talked to some of the locals. It was a local lady that told me that they had seeds to in case the world comes to an end, that they can dig up that time capsule and that there will be seeds and crops to grow to reestablish a civilization. They also have a manual and directions of what to do. Okay, under that 13 bloodline agenda, the Khazarian agenda, the Georgia of Russia agenda, the King George agenda, who is a Khazarian. They also have underneath the Georgia Guidestones what I've come to see through remote view. And that's what I'm going to show you guys today when I switch over to my other little camera, is they have an extensive lunar tunneler that's going 300 feet underground, the Georgia Guidestones, that leads to what I seen was a well of nuclear waste. And I've been seeing these all over the Earth's grid, so I'm going to explain that more. But from that tunneler, from the underground tunnels, because they're using nuclear power to create the underground tunnels. That's how they're making these, essentially. But this would be extending off to underground military industrial complexes, something similar to what is like a junior pentagon. So a pentagon that's like a smaller pentagon waiting to go in case of something happening. They also have an underground rocket factory, an underground submarine station, and underground nuclear power plants being used for underground installations for secret military complexes. I also think it's interesting to notate that the double-headed eagles, okay, so you'll have to watch my last update to understand who I'm talking about when I say double-headed eagles, talking in code word here. But see my last update to know what the double-headed eagle stands for. But essentially, the double-headed eagle is posted up at and in parts of Florida and Cuba as we speak in militarized groups. Okay, so they are not far from these sites either. Okay, everything is relative to each other right now, and what's playing out and how relative Georgia Guidestones are to the current events that are taking place. So Georgia is a very unseen complex, and I had no idea how elusive it actually was. It really truly is another base cataclysmic dedicated state to be used energetically for the Aquilan control system developments in future timelines. Like I said, it's similar to how DIA, Denver International Airport, is anchoring in the Draco, the Dragon Nations, the factions and lineages, the not see, the ones we cannot see, and the ones who cannot see factions, hijacked Aryan factions, with their swastika runway and planetary branding iron field and underground tunnel system to the MK Ultra Ran bunkers. So between these two states, between Colorado and between Atlanta, between DIA and Atlanta Airport, in Atlanta in general, and the surrounding areas in Georgia, they may be integrating or interfacing technologies on two different earthly density fields. I know that they're not the same. They're not ran by the same faction. So Georgia would be an Aquilan ran faction. Denver would be a Draco ran faction. And they're basically, they're supporting one another. Okay, Atlanta is supposed to be a Bavarian illumined facility constructed in collaboration with a similar base below the Denver International Airport. So they're saying that Atlanta Airport and Denver Airport are human alien corroborators, alien hybridization program headquarters for the New Death Orders, and even the Montauk projects. So the Montauk projects come into this as well. This is another funnel of connection to the Georgia Guidestones. Remember, I did an extensive video on the Montauk projects. I will leave that video in the description here so you can go back and watch it, but I did kind of break this down. Had to do with the experiments at the Montauk site, the Air Force base there. They had that big radio control tower, and they were running experiments on humans. I mean, Bill Clinton even knew about this. I believe Bill Clinton actually issued some statement about it, like that he was like apologizing for the experiments that they were aware of that they did to humans here at the site. I mean, it's crazy stuff. It's really crazy stuff. But all of this is done through your Willy Wonka, okay? These human experimentation camps. But all of this goes into the depopulation codes, the eugenic codes at the Georgia Guidestones. So I'll leave the links to the description to that video so you can watch. They're also running from the Georgia Guidestones. They're running the Phoenix projects here as well. And this is also another hijacked control matrix extension from the Aquila nations, factions, nation systems templating that runs wormhole time portals from Giza, Egypt, from ancient Egypt encrypted black magic sorcery. Okay, I say black magic sorcery because I really feel that Draco first took over ancient Egypt, that's where they actually came in. And then it all descended down to Rome from there. But it's connected to planet Nibiru. So it's also Georgia Guidestones anchoring energy from ancient Egypt through the Phoenix wormholes and also from the planet Nibiru. And I think this also comes down through the Philadelphia experience. So this has a lot to do with Air Force bases and naval bases. Those are the two factions of military that are running the most in-depth secrets-based programs, or at least have the most information and recordings of it. If other factions of the military are running it, they're just not as, they're probably more discreet about it. But all of this calls in the fallen realms and systems from the World War II grids as well. So this is how those World War II grids come through portal systems to the Georgia Guidestones, how it's all interconnected and how it's funneling through different energetic systems. So I just want to thank my good friend John Krez for providing me with some articles linking this information from DIA to Atlanta Airport together. I was really blown away by the stuff that he sent me. So I'm going to also leave these articles for you guys to read about this today, so you can go deeper into this rabbit hole if you feel called to do so. But honestly, now that I've had time to really settle in from my trip to the sacred site, I have been really activated by this site, and that's why I'm continuing to put more information out about it. I'm really excited to transmit more of what I have found out with you guys today. So let me take a drink of my water. I get so thirsty when I start talking, and then I also have the light coming in from outside, so it's getting really, really warm, which I don't mind. I like being warm, so that's good for me if I get warmed up. So in this update today, I will be, like I said, remote viewing my findings, organic and inorganic planetary energetic findings, secret space and militarization findings, and other networking sites running off the same timeline, wave, and frequency intuitions of the planetary manifestation field that I just told you guys a lot about. Okay, so because it is getting so light, I'm going to actually close my blinds here really quick. Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. I did not want my lighting to get like too glared on the video. So yeah, what's honestly so interesting about visiting the Georgia Guidestones was the next night after leaving the state of Georgia and getting home to sleep in my bed. I was probably attacked about 4 to 5 different times in the astral field upon falling to sleep, because as I was falling asleep, I could feel myself starting to access the astral fields, and there seemed to be like an incubus or like a succubus type energy that was within and around me. Every time I would try to go into the astral, I would get attacked, and I would have like a night terror that would wake and jolt me out of sleep through like actually stopping my breathing. I don't know if you've ever had that happen, but it happened probably like 4 or 5 times after coming home from the Georgia Guidestones. So I've come to interpret that this was those ritualized souls that are essentially stuck in the Bardo plains carried over from this site. And that energy is really, really, really heavy there. I mean, that capstone is literally a ritual platter. Okay, and I'm going to explain all of that to you guys. So some of this might seem really, really dark for you guys. So I'm going to put a disclaimer on this video today that if you're really, really sensitive to these types of conversations about what they're doing in terms of ritualizing the black magic sorcery, the cannibalism, all of the darker, right, more Luciferian or satanic things, if you can't have these conversations, then this video, the remainder of this video isn't going to be for you today. I think it's important that we discuss these things and we go into the depth of what they're actually doing here, so that way we can spread knowledge, we can awaken people, we can prevent people from going back to sleep. This information that I talk about today does not fit the mainstream narrative. It does not fit the fluffy narrative that everybody wants to hear. If you're following a fluffy narrative, you are allowing yourself to go back to sleep, because that's just not what's going on here on this earth. There's so much 666 codes, destruction codes, Tower Babel codes, whatever, that are still very active. The Cabal is still active. The Draco lineages are still active. The Saturn codes are still active. The dark wormholes and portals from the Kaaba systems are still running. The beast machines, the beast mechanics, all of that. The Lord of the Rings is here on this earth, and that would be the Pope. The Pope is wearing the ring of Saturn, the Piscatory ring, and they're still worshiping the Dagon, the Cthulhu. Okay, all of those spirits are still here working in humanity and against humanity, not for humanity, for the old dark ones. That's who they're working for. And it's a parasite, or it's an invasion that has infected all genetic species, all races, all lineages. Okay, nothing is free and clear from this until we free and clear it from all beings on this planet Earth. So it's all about raising the consciousness, the awareness, the frequency of the grid structures. If you want to know what our greatest weapon is to raise the consciousness. And we can't raise the consciousness without going into the depth of what they're doing here. Okay, and so I just want to give you guys that disclaimer. If you need to turn this off, if you need to pull little ones away from the screen right now, if they're listening, because I don't want to scare little ones. Someone did tell me that in the last video I did with all of the cursing that I had going on in that video, that the little ones didn't like it so much. So I'm just giving you that disclaimer now that I am going to kind of go into some more secret occult things that are going on at the Georgia Guidestones. And so, yeah, and again, this is all about your own gnosis, right? So what aligns to you? What is your gnosis? Your gnosis is the most important thing. It's not about what any other teacher or healer that you follow, any other literature, any other books, anything that you do, period, any sacred books. It's all going to come through a tainting of a human interpretation, everything on this earth. Okay, so it doesn't matter what any other teachings or beliefs or following say. All that matters when you listen to something or hear something or feel something is how do you feel about it? What is your truth? And that's your basis and your guideline for everything that you do, and everything that you listen to, including my update today. So just want to let you guys know that, because I do care a lot about how I influence others and how it comes across. And I just want you guys to be informed. And not everything that I bring forward is going to be of the highest light. Okay, it's in the intention of the highest good, but it's not always going to be that real light stuff. I do put a lot of light intel out. I just talked about the dove grid, the swan grid, and those are still light templatings that I'm still expecting to flourish and take us into the new earth. And the light design of those systems are still existing within me and through the rest of the world. But all of this stuff is simultaneously running with one another. And so that's why I also work really, really hard as like a spiritual detective to break down this information for you guys, essentially. So what's also really interesting about all of this in this video that I'm doing today, and even the last video of the Georgia Guidestones that I just put out, is that the erection date and the anniversary of the Georgia Guidestones was March 22nd, 1980. So I do believe today is March 21st, post one day after the spring equinox. So we're putting this information and transmitting this information right at the time of their anniversary erection date, March 22nd, 1980. And what's also really interesting about all of this too, astrological alignments coming in, is that Mars right now is very aligned to the Aquilan system. All of the planetary bodies were aligned to the Aquilan system at this time, but right at solstice time and energy, Mars was directly aligned to the Aquilan system. So that's just to continue to back up what I'm saying. Okay, so I've been yapping for a very long time, and I want to share with you guys the Aquilan Stargate that's running here. Okay, so I'm just going to share a little Wikipedia blog with you guys. Okay, so what we have here is Rock Eagle. Rock Eagle Effigy Mound is an archaeological site in Putnam County, Georgia, USA. I'll pull up this picture here. And essentially, now this is one way that energetically may be enforcing or building the structural light templating to the Aquilan Egalian dominant masculine father principle here in the lands of Georgia as a control matrix network from the Georgia Guidestones, Georgia of Russia, and into the future Aquilan control principle timelines. This is a sacred site that is functioning as a solar gate system from the Aquilan nations. It's also running and generating quantum ley line energy from the Nazca lines as well. So This is the Rock Eagle Effigy Mound. What I'll do is I'll actually zoom in on my map for you guys. Okay, I'm gonna go. It's gonna take me a minute to zoom all the way into the effigy mound. But essentially, this is really important because I want you guys to see this is an Aquila Stargate right by the Georgia Guidestones. So the Georgia Guidestones are here. And the Rock Eagle Effigy Mound is, where's it at? Uh-oh, can't find it. It's right here. Okay, so I'm going to zoom all the way into this because I want you guys to be able to see that this is something you actually can see from the sky. And you see how it's within relativity to the Georgia Guidestones. It takes a long time to go all the way in. You can see how it's set up in a circular vortex. And you can kind of see the outline of it here. It is covered by some shadows of the trees. That's as far as it's going to let us go. So this is about a 1 hour and 40-minute drive southwest of the Georgia Guidestones and is parallel in direction to one of the actual pointing directions of one of the corner Georgia Guidestone stones. So the stone that has energy languages inscribed in Arabic and Hebrew. Okay, so that stone in Arabic and Hebrew inscription is bringing forth the height of the Elohim Aquilan energy and its hybridized encryptions with the hybridization of Aquila, pointing in the direction of the Rock Eagle Effigy Mound. And what's interesting about this mound is the beak or the head of the eagle at the effigy mound is pointing east in the direction of the Georgia Guidestones. And I feel like I literally cannot make this stuff up, you guys. I feel like I re-blow my own mind after I channel and intuit this information and then literally find the gate system that's downloading the energy right into the vortex site itself. This is said to be a circular solar stargate vortex that was built to call in and down military galactic extraterrestrial forces from Aquila to this location here in Georgia, Aquila Galactic Headquarters. It's also supposed to be doing the reverse here as well. So it's running reversal codes here with sending transmissions back to the gods and the Aquilan forces. So this gate system here, this particular effigy mound, which is a gate system, is running clockwise and anti-clockwise spin sets in the motion here in the astrocausal etheric ketheric all the way to the Rishik fields. There is also an unusual marker here. Okay, so it looks like there was another secret society. There's a lot of secret societies in Georgia. This one was from the Georgia Society Colonial Dames of the 17th century in June 1940, but they came in and put a little creepy little wording here on the site. And this says, what they said was, "Tread softly here, white man, for long ere you came, strange races lived, fought, and loved." Okay, and so they put this here on this site, but they were not the ones who actually created this site. This site, nobody knows who created this site. This eagle mound has been here for thousands of years before this message was placed, and no one knows who exactly created it or put it here. They don't have any clue. But the belief is that this all goes back to the bird men, the eagle men that used to fly and were found all over Georgia, that the bird men put it here. And so it's interesting that they say tread softly because you came from strange races that lived and fought and loved. Strange races. Now, what I have seen psychically is that who put this here were the Nephilim giants with wings. That's what came to me. I don't think that they wanted us to know that the Nephilim once had wings, but I feel that the fall happened with the Nephilim and that the fall is symbolizing the great hybridization traumas of the 6th and the 70 fallen angel traumas where the wings were cut from their backs. Okay, I've been talking about this on other shows that I've done. I think I talked about it on the show I did with Sethicus just a little bit about the fallen angel traumas, that these come through the hybridization traumas. I think this particular trauma comes through the Nephilim. And this is a trauma that many today are still suffering from as they remember more of their Akashic memories and heal themselves from the hybridization traumas that are stored in the miasma records of the body. Now, the human eye, I guess, cannot see this. So if you're on the ground, you can't see this effigy. You have to go up to a higher level to clearly see this giant eagle. And I did do a group grid session on the full moon on the 18th with my divine grid team, and we worked extensively on the lower D astral tumultuous planetary fields. And upon prior to going into that session, I was seeing all kinds of energetic connections to several sacred sites. Some of them weren't sacred sites. Some of those were war grids. Some of those were descending grids. Some of those were harvesting stations. Some of those were loose stations. Some of those were descending grids, bleeding grids. But I seen an extensive array of sites that were funneling to the Georgia Guidestones. So a list of those encodings, I'll go ahead and zoom out because I have them charted all over the Earth's field here, were all of these sites here. I didn't draw lines over to, but obviously it has to do with the Philadelphia experiment, Montauk Project, also going overseas, China, Georgia, Russia, Moscow, Russia, Ukraine, Sea of Azov, Ukraine, moon portals, and Orion portals. The Sea of Azov has a lot to do with this. It's like the shallowest sea, and it's open Orion portals, moon portals. Poland, Germany, Australia, Vatican, Rome, Kaaba, Saudi Arabia, and Temple Mount in Jerusalem. That all of these locations were connected here to the Georgia Guidestones. And what we seen in that group grid session is what we seen the most was that of the warfare that's taking place in the 9th, 8th, and 7th dimensional fields. We had a lot of disruptions in that group grid session within those dimensional fields. And our tribal round and our tribal shield kept getting like muted, I guess you could say, in that dimensional field. It's feeding most heavily off of the nursery rhyme crimes here. These are the Orion Wars. So all of these nursery rhyme crimes, this extends from the Orion Wars. Okay, this has a lot to do with the Georgia Guidestones because, again, eugenics and depopulation programming, and also their frequencies that they're running about like birthing, rebirthing, bringing children into this world, all of these things. It goes back to this, right? That this is like a funnel, a nuclear funnel to the future timelines that is going to bring forth that trauma through those dimensional fields, through the Georgia Guidestones. It's feeding here most heavily. And many frequency fences were around these things, right? So as we went in as a group and we tried to actually dissolve the energy, we were blocked by frequency fences. And it was really disallowing the healing energy to fully penetrate into those dimensional fields. So it's very tumultuous here in these density fields globally. And it really does leave one open to vulnerable personal attacks in these fields. And this is where these astral rips and tears in the space-time continuum, the 7th, 8th, and 90 fields are most extensively active. This is like where the eye of the storm is essentially in the planetary fields in terms of the warfare grids, in terms of the depopulation agendas, and in terms of the eugenic agendas, and the fallen 55 portals that are feeding into these systems, and all of the human acts and behavioral type things, hijacking, suffocation, trafficking, laundering, cleansing, ethnic cleansing, slavery, all of these things, sterilization, whatever, that bleed into those things. All of that is tumultuously running through the Orion Wars, 7th, 8th, and 9th dimensional fields, has everything to do with the implementation and enforcement of the Aquilan grid and the fallen Draco grids, Anunnaki grids as well. So you can see I have the north, the south, the east, and the west. And don't mind this little stain that I got here. Last night I was having a little snack while I was drawing this up, and I got it on the paper, but I didn't want to redo it. So I was like, whatever, who cares? You guys aren't going to care. And don't mind my drawing because I'm not a professional artist. I could actually do this and create something on graphics, but it's just easier to draw it up sometimes quickly to be able to show what I've seen. But essentially I have the north, the south, the east, and the west directions, and then these are the actual stones themselves that are going in that interdirectional phase in between the directions. The hyperdimensional, interdirectional powered, running similar to like the angular ley lines. And they're doing that so they can stay undetectable in the Earth's dimensional fields. And this is, like I said, this was how the ancients used to do magic. And it's a very occult technique that they're using here at the Georgia Guidestones. Now, the languages that they paired in the directions are also important as well. Russia and Chinese going northwest, English and Spanish going northeast, Swahili and Hindi going southeast, and Arabic and Hebrew going southwest. Now, they're pulling the currents from the Aquila Stargate site from the rock eagle effigy mound through the Arabic and Hebrew. And then they're also funneling energy off of, so the energy is going this way in the Earth's field. It's going from the northeast to the southwest. So it's going through English and Spanish translation, and it's coming out Arabic and Hebrew. So, like I said, that current is probably going both ways because the gate system there is clockwise and anti-clockwise from the Eagle Rock effigy mound, which is the Aquilan Stargate. So there's probably a interdimensional clockwise and anti-clockwise flow of energy that's coming through those particular stone sets themselves. Now, one thing, and I haven't had time to look into the other ones, but these are the ones that seem to be the most activated in terms of energy flow at the Georgia Guidestones. Now, another aspect to the Georgia Guidestones that I think is really, really important is the fact that these stones are mostly silicon dioxide. The rock eagle location is quartz, so it's pulling energy to and from a quartz location. Quartz is hard. It's non-foliated metamorphic rock, which was originally pure quartz sandstone. Quartz is crystalline mineral composed of silica, silicon dioxide. So most transitors, most transdimensional gate systems are going to be running the silicone, made from very pure silicone. Remember I told you that the AI singularity vortexes at the Applegate spaceship in Silicon Valley in California, they're running their transmissions through silica. It's one way that they are, personally I feel they're hijacking the double diamond sun light body templates, and are running the black spiral and the red spiral AI waves into the consciousness field, and also keeping people stimulated under the Jimmy jab and the RNA and the DNA, basically to keep people plugged into the electronically controlled AI hives, which is based in silica. So these granite stones here, they are 74% silica base as well. So it's really interesting that at all these particular nefarious sites that they're running their technology through silica based templates. I think that the silica also has a lot to do with the crystals. Silica is a crystalline solid in which its atoms, molecules, ions, they're basically microscopically arranged to into like a crystal lattice that extends in all directions. So it has a lot to do with the interdirectional technology that they're running here. And it's working on the basic crystal structures of the planet. So I think it's a way that they're trying to break up the inorganic crystal grid matrix. And it also alters and determines I think the gender identity distortions within the Merkaba spirals as well. So it's all about the the distortions that they're running, trying to break up and scatter and fragment universal laws. So definitely a lot of this silica technology is happening here at the Georgia Guidestones. Now here's the time capsule seeds that are off to the left side. So I do believe that those seeds are underneath this capstone here, that they put the time capsule with the seeds underneath here. And this here is the actual capstone. So I called this a ritual platter. This actually is a large stone that goes down that has a slit in the middle as well, but on the top there's this large capstone. I do feel that this is their ritual platter. This is where they're doing the black magic. This is where they are running the Baphomet rituals, where they are making their offerings to Baal, essentially where they are funneling that energy down into intelligent spirals. So you can see here in my picture how I drew these spirals that come down and are basically following a flow of energy, right? It's following the flow of energy that's pushing this spiral of intelligent spirals, funneling it down into, and what it's doing is basically, because they're ritualizing here and shafting that energy down the shaft, that this is essentially disrupting the life force energies existing in the atomic 1D fields, the first dimensional bodies, and this is exploiting the astral fields. It's creating astral warfare, targeting these attacks to those that are carrying those persecution codes, right? The crucifixion codes. Generation for dissension cycles in the planetary field. This is all propagating this here at this site. And they're channeling this down through, because this ritual platter here, the capstone, aligns to the celestial pole. It aligns at the highest alignment at 12 p.m. noon. And then they're also running solar energy horizontally here. So there's something in the way that they've funneled this centered capstone by putting like a slit or a hole in the middle of it, that they're funneling solar energy horizontally. Okay. I'm seeing that this comes down into a nuclear pool reservoir, and these nuclear pool reservoirs are deep down in the ground. And I feel that these are what are circumventing those rips and tears in the space-time continuums, that they're nuclear powered. And this is what's circumventing those harmful messages, sourcing from alien implants, technology, alien machinery, alien hijacking stone granite, hijacking the stoning concepts, alien hybridization, capitalization upon humanity. This is what this is circumventing down these shafts that were designed to do that go down 300 feet into the ground. In the lower D astral tumultuous fields, this in turn is affecting the central nervous system. It's affecting the root chakra. So this is how they actually capitalize on the lower D astral, is by fragmenting and fracturing global collective root chakra, individual and personal biological root chakra. It's also affecting the metabolic rate of the body and the biological rhythms, the RNA and the DNA, like I said, capitalizing on the silica distortions to pull people into the AI hive. Basically, they're channeling and funneling this ritual energy down. So if they have a ritual here, funneling, and my lighting is really crazy today. I'm so sorry about my lighting, guys. Like, I'm filming in the afternoon, so it's coming through every single window that I have, even with my blinds closed. But essentially, it's funneling this ritual energy down and using, like I said, those celestial pole alignments at the highest noon hour, okay? And using this solar energy here to transmit those interdirectional transmissions through the silica, through horizontal solar energy, with this shaft being about 300 feet down here in the ground and down into this nuclear pool reservoir. And I've been seeing these nuclear pool reservoirs all over the globe, all in the listed locations that I just mentioned before: China, Georgia, Russia, Moscow, Russia, Ukraine, Sea of Azov, Ukraine, moon portals, Orion portals, Chernobyl, Fukushima, Poland, Germany, Australia, Vatican, Rome, Kaaba, Temple Mount, Georgia, Colorado, California, New York, Washington, D.C. It's really, really, really crazy because I've been seeing these nuclear pools for a really, really long time. And I've been trying to emphasize that every time I have group grid sessions, that we need to clear nuclear rings, smog, pools, okay, in the grids. These are building up in the grids. Georgia Guidestones is a place that they're doing this, and there's actually high technology to do it. Now, another thing that I think the slit in the center, because they have a slit in this capstone, like down in the main running granite stone underneath it, I think that they are allowing intelligent plasma in. So intelligent plasma is basically swarming the location, because intelligent plasma is actually called to places that are ritualized, that are used for sacred offerings and all types of, powerful energies. Intelligent plasma will be called to that energy. And what I think they're doing is, through that slit, is they're allowing that intelligent plasma to form itself and construct itself into different shapes, and then navigate itself down in its form, down in through that slit, and down in through that stone shaft, and down into that nuclear pool. And this is how they're exploiting more dimensional and alchemical aspects in the astral fields. Again, for harvesting the collective astral body, harvesting sexual energies, harvesting basically, everything that they can harvest, basically. So this was what I wanted to show you guys. We have to focus on upgrading the consciousness of the Earth's field, of the Earth's grids, and of the people who create these things, right? It's all rooted in this deep occultism. It is a life force of its own. It is, the Georgia Guidestones were constructed under a Babylonian belief, and it does actually say that at the stones themselves, that they are there to guide humanity into the age of reason directly from that site. Now, before I wrap this update up, I want to talk a little bit why Georgia is so loaded for this militarization, base activation, post-cataclysmic events, and humanity reset. So let me go deeper down into Georgia. You can see all of these places that I have identified. All of these places here are very, very important to what is functioning and running at the Georgia Guidestones. So the first location is going to be here, the Naval Submarine Station. This is the Kings Bay Naval Submarine Base at St. Mary's in Georgia. This location has been under a heightened level of paranormal investigations at the Submarine Museum. That's about a 5-hour drive southwest of the Georgia Guidestones, parallel to the languages of Swahili and Hindu. I just wanted to give a shout out to Joyce for bringing me this intel. Thank you, Divine Sister, so much for filling me in on this particular location. This location is home to the Trident. And let me emphasize, Trident nuclear powered submarines. Okay, so there's this emphasis on the nuclear energy, Trident equaling Poseidon, Enki, Shiva, Father, Principle, Photonic, Gamma, atomic, radioactive connections here. Remember, I told you that everything that we're seeing in current events is running the wars of the Father Principle, and you can see this is all coming through the nuclear transmissions from the Georgia Guidestones. Everything here is listed. That has been tagged here for location. Our nuclear ran. Okay, come to find out, there is actually a nuclear power plant in Georgia that is one of the largest nuclear power plants in the U.S. The other largest one is actually in Arizona. But let's see if I can find it here, which one it is. It's right here. Okay, very close to the Georgia Guidestone, one of the largest nuclear plants in the United States. It's called the Plant Vogel Units 3 and 4. They're installing 3 and 4 more new nuclear units built in the United States in the last 3 decades. It's the newest nuclear implant in the last 3 decades in the United States, in Georgia, right next to the Georgia Guidestones. The next location that's important on here is going to be the Kennesaw Mountains, right here. So these are the Kennesaw Mountains. Essentially, the Kennesaw Mountain. Now, this is a really, really important place to the Georgia Guidestones for what's running at the Aquila Future Control Matrices Network. It's said to have an underground rocket facility. Kennesaw Mountains is also said to have the junior pentagon, where elaborate headquarters would be installed to direct southern U.S. enemy from attack if the pentagon was to go down in Washington, D.C. There may also be SAGE radar facilities inside Kennesaw Mountain with a semi-automatic air defense center. So what they are operating here at Kennesaw Mountain in Georgia is highly extensive operations. And they say how they have been able to do this is because of the Dobbin Air Force Base. So the Dobbin Air Force Base is how they are and have gotten all the equipment to build and do this stuff, is because they're funneling it through the Dobbin Air Force Base. And this is how they could have entered in and out, is through the Air Force Base. It's kind of important to take note of how everything in terms of these operations is coming through Air Force bases. Air Force, Aquila, Eagle, Air Force, okay, Air Force. It's brought the attention to the frequency of flight to the Aquila control matrix. Then there's also the Appalachian. Okay, so we have the Appalachian Trail. Now this is this large red line that goes from here all the way up by Washington, D.C. and into Maine. Some of you may have heard of the Appalachian Trail. Now, this is said to be an extensive underground tunneling system from Georgia all the way to Maine, that this would be used as a secret passageway for militarization and other forms of industrial globalization moves running through and by Washington, D.C. So these tunnels must extensively run from Washington, D.C. to the Appalachian Underground Tunneler System. It's said that this entire underground tunnel system from the Appalachian Trail, Georgia to Appalachian Trail, Maine, that it's said that this is a nuclear subterranean tunnel boring machine, and this is designing the entire network out as we speak. So this is like still being like crafted. And these machines are nuclear powered, designed to melt their way through the rock and soil, leaving behind neat glass tunnels. So they're using, the key point in all of this is that they're using major nuclear powering systems here in Georgia. And this is really what the Georgia Guidestones is representing here, is that this nuclear energy in the astral is defining this astral warfare. Nuclear energy is what they are using to power out their underground tunnels, channeling this energy from nuclear waste sites and nuclear astral harvesting. Also here in Georgia, we have 2 underground FEMA camps as well. So, they are set up in Georgia. Let me tell you, they have Forest Park FEMA camp, and then they also have Thomasville FEMA camp. So these are underground FEMA camps, okay? All of these underground FEMA camps have access to the underground tunnels, and it's estimated that there are actually 96 underground FEMA hidden camps all over the U.S., FEMA, Thomasville, Georgia, and Forest Park, Georgia. Okay, so they're very prepared here in Georgia, I'm telling you, to reset. Rockdale, Georgia is also an emergency center for the people in the underground complexes. It holds up to 100 people, sleeping quarters, and generators. Rockdale, Georgia, right here. And so really, guys, the Georgia Guidestones here, this is a network system. This isn't just the Georgia Guidestones. What you see here with all of these locations, these are all designed to function off of what the instruction set, the manual set, the seeds, the nuclear funneling of energy, Everything that's coming from the Georgia Guidestones here, underground, organized, very, very extensive organized network, anything beyond what's even going on in Denver, Colorado, prepared for the New World Death Order 13 Bloodline Agenda, Khazarian, not the ones we cannot see, influenced Aquila control network, ready to be activated at the total detriment and collapse of humanity. When we're coming in to remote view this stuff and work on these types of energies, we got to come in with the ability to upgrade the consciousness field. We have to be able to send love and compassion. We have to realize the beast machines and beast mechanics that we're truly working with here, that this is very, very extensive networks. And we have to just remember too that it's important that we're doing our own work, right? That we're self-actualizing, self-aware of what's running in our own systems, our own templates. So that way we can clear the detrimental frequencies from our own bodies first and foremost, and just keep working on it. Keep going, not giving up hope, not giving up faith, alleviating the J cells, expanding the dove grid, the swan grid, the actual higher ultra light templating light matrices that will obliterate the darkness and the shadow on this earth. And yeah, so I mean, there is a lot we can do: group meditations, group planetary grid healings, and just keep working on these sites. A lot of people have said to me, oh, the Georgia Guidestones, why don't they just rip those down? Why doesn't somebody take them down? Why doesn't somebody take them down? You know, they're still standing, you know, because there's all these legal repercussions. So the draconian legal system has everybody in fear of, you know, standing up and going above and beyond to get rid of and wipe these things from the template, from the earth field, from the earth's grid. So it's really complex. It's very vast, and I don't think any of us ultimately have the answers to the questions that we pose when we look deeper into this stuff. We just have to believe that, and we have to know through our gnosis that the light is coming, that transformation is coming, but these are plants, these are implants, these are deep alien technologies, hijacked systems that we're viewing, that we're looking at here. So I think the first step is ultimately just to be aware and to know that these things are going on, that these things exist, and that awareness itself fuels and generates and rehabilitates revolution and change itself. So I hope that you guys could appreciate this message today and this deeper look and this deeper insight into these grid templates here in Georgia. I had no clue that Georgia was this extensive. I am just looking in from Alabama right now, looking into Georgia going, wow, this is very extensive. I drew a line from Denver, Colorado, so you could see, I mean, this is where the next multi-functioning underground secret networks are running here, is in Denver, Colorado. I did do a video on this, the DIA a remote view session that I did, video that I put out. If you want to check that out, I have a lot of links to videos you want to watch in the description on this update today. And be sure to, like I said, come over to my new website. Come check out my new website, indigoangel222.com. Come see what I have going on. Sign up for my email newsletters. And yeah, guys, so I love you all so much. And I will see you guys on the next update. Namaste, and have a beautiful everything.